Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Happy Friday to you and your family. Hope you're having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching. Obviously, if you've been watching for a while, greatly appreciate it. And I got some cool comments yesterday about some of my followers have been watching for some time. Some people have been watching me since almost like the month I started my channel. So it's over almost 2.5 years ago. So awesome stuff. Thanks again so much for all your support. We're going to take a quick look here, of course, at Bitcoin, kind of see what's going on and generally understand best practice and big picture. I have like some of these lines on the chart here, and this is basically my anticipation from yesterday. If we were to come up here, reject, and the price comes back down, we could see lower lows. So just keep in mind that could still be on the horizon. We'll talk about that here in a little bit as far as why the price action could reject off this resistance range at 30,600 and kind of go from there. So again, new to the channel, thanks again for watching. Hope you have a good learning experience here today. We're going to look at a few things such as Bitcoin CME futures with the the big picture there as far as CME gaps. We're also going to talk about Bitcoin dominance and what it means. I've been getting a lot of questions recently from community members, about Bitcoin dominance and where it needs to be for altcoins to surge. We're a long ways off from that, but the simple way to understand it is that Ethereum is usually the first catalyst there. Once Ethereum kind of like 2x's Bitcoin, then we know alt season's on the horizon because Bitcoin dominance comes down below 49%. We'll talk about that too. All right, so let's just jump right into a few things that are important. And to me, this is equally as important because a lot of folks have been hit with KuCoin, Bybit, and BitGet KYC requirements. So, if you want a healthy option in the United States or Canada or any other restricted country, no VPN or KYC required, $50 USDT bonus. You just deposit 50. And then if you have volume that reaches 3,000, which is super easy with leverage, by the way, you get a $100 bonus as well. Only if you use the link down below. This is only available until July 31st. Okay, so I just like to make sure to mention that because a lot of folks are migrating over, and it's really cool to be able to kind of see that we have an option there. So thank you, BingX, for that benefit there. So here's what we want to look at. Let's go ahead and pull this up here really quick. Looks like some of the things aren't pulling up specifically. Let's see if we can get a quick little refresh here. Because with the backend data, we want to look at a few things here today. So first of all, we can note that a lot of shorts got liquidated yesterday with that, or correction, a lot of longs rather, got liquidated, and we can see the price action reflecting that. Okay, again, the price came down pretty hard and effectively canceled out a lot of those plays. What we saw yesterday too is that there was a lot more longs being closed than open. Today, big surprise in this range-bound activity right at 30,000. We are hitting that low level where folks added to their position at 30,000 or reopened some longs. Okay, so again, we're more long biased at this point because we are on the bottom half of that range between 30,000 and 31.5. It makes perfect sense. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at our Discord here, we were cleaning up in a lot of ways. We got a nice 10% profit on Ethereum. We bought the dip there. I'll show you on the 4-hour time frame why we did that. Then on our Premium Plus channel too, we've also got some healthy profits here from BCH, a couple of nice long positions. And unfortunately, we missed our targets here for Litecoin and XRP, but the calls were on target because we achieved the profit before actually getting entered in that trade. So again, 4 out of 4 on Bitcoin, and of course, a few other trades there too. So really cool stuff. Anyways, check that out in your own time, cryptocash.tech if you're curious. But what we want to look at though is just the simple fact that we are seeing a variance here, right? We're range bound, buying the dips, and essentially selling the tops. When's it going to break out? Well, we got to find out. Looking at the larger time frames, we can identify that in some ways. Bollinger Bands is a good way to identify it, and so is a few other factors. Let's quickly look a look at some net longs here for open interest and see what's going on. We can see a lot of longs are in the green. Early and even late longs are still doing pretty well. How are these shorts looking? Well, early shorts pretty much got wrecked. Recent shorts also got closed too here. So we can see there some very, very, very relevant and recent, like we're talking the last 30 minutes, those are in the green, okay? Because of course the price is pulling back a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. I do feel like we're going to see that 30,500, 30,600 range retested. But is it going to break? We're going to find out about that. All right, so let's quickly look here at CME futures. We can see this recent gap here on Thursday was essentially closed. Now you're asking yourself, probably thinking out loud, wait, it's only closed on the weekends. No, it's closed for like 30 minutes at a time during the weekdays, right? Because there's always this little 23.5 hour, continuation, and then like a half an hour lunch break, if you will, right? So that little lunch break there, essentially between 12 and 1 o'clock, was able to get filled here just today. So that was a nice little bonus there. Another reason why I felt a little confident taking a long position yesterday. I took a long position with my BingX account as well here, and we took a nice little profit. What was it? Somewhere in the range of, I think it was like 16% if I recall correctly. Wasn't crazy good profit, but still a little bit add to the bank. You got to be happy to take profits when you can, especially in these crazy markets, okay? So cool stuff there. Once again, I have a BingX account if you want to follow that. There is a copy trading account that you can essentially sync up if you'd like. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Bitcoin dominance. Just to quickly note here, Bitcoin dominance is very high, obviously. I think you probably know that. We broke through that key level resistance here at about 48%, and it's been high ever since. But the one thing I want to kind of bring to your attention here is the simple fact that, in fact, we might be able to just go ahead and pull this up side by side here. I want to take a quick peek and just kind of show you when alts were cranking, right? So if we take a look at, just say, let's pull this up, and our dominance, and you see Bitcoin dominance being really high. First of all, look at the daily, and then let's go ahead and pull up Ethereum. So Ethereum at its highest point was right here when Bitcoin dominance was in the, again, that was about November, right, when things were peaking back in 2021. Bitcoin dominance was at 43% and inevitably came down all the way to about 40% at its low. Okay, so I'd like to bring that to your attention and kind of just mention that, as far as Bitcoin dominance and altcoin season, etc., when we see Bitcoin dominance return back to the low 40% range, that's when we can kind of feel more confident about that. Okay, so again, I just want to kind of address that because folks are always curious, like, hey, 4-year cycle, alt season should be here, what's going on? It should be, yes, but we had a bit of a delay with inflation too, honestly, that really set things off. And in that sense, with the way that things worked out, Bitcoin dominance being higher, especially above this key level resistance at just say 48%, with it being higher, I wouldn't expect alts to just surge. We might have some outliers like we had recently meme coins. There might be some other sectors that will follow suit. I hear Pepe 2.0 is doing pretty well. But again, it's one of those things where it's nothing to really worry about. So anyways, I just want to kind of throw you out there and let you know that we're not really on the verge of any alt season per se. We need to see Bitcoin dominance come down, and a lot of different things have to happen to get there. All right, so we're a little ways from that. So what's Bitcoin doing? Let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's jump into the monthly and just kind of quickly address a few things because I think it's important to recognize this here. So take a look at the monthly. We can see we are still above 50 in the RSI. That's a positive sign. We've got a MACD convergence here as well forming. In fact, I think if you take a look at different charts, because this is like the perpetual, then we can kind of see here technically that the MACD has converged, right? Because again, perpetual charts aren't exactly accurate because they're older, or sorry, they're not as old as some of these other ones here. Like for example, on this guy here, this Bitstamp, this goes all the way back to 2010. We can see a much better averages, right? So we are converging on the MACD here, telling us that further upside makes more sense. We're also above all moving averages, and that's just a positive sign. Okay, let's take a quick look at the weekly. And of course, we're above all 3 moving averages, which is fantastic. The 50 swinging its way up here for a potential golden cross in the future. So mostly positive there too. So keep in mind, the price does pull back if it were to, like I've been expecting or anticipating. I would much rather say that it's best to expect the worst and hope for the best, right? So we're expecting it to dip down. If it were to, just know the 200-day SMA, notoriously a very strong support and resistance, is holding pretty strong about 26,000. You can see it held the price action mostly in place here recently, that small wick down to 24.7. But once more, looking pretty good and healthy there, over 70 in the RSI, or over 50, under 70, not overextended. So honestly, the weekly and monthly both look fantastic for like the standard indicators, okay? Now when we take a look at the daily, this is where things get kind of fun and interesting. In other words, we are range bound. Disregard this little resistance level there for the moment and just note that we are range bound between 29,700, just say as a worst case, more so just say 30,000 or 29.9, and of course upwards of 31.5 or 31.4. Okay. Now why I have this line here is it's a previous resistance that had a lot of trouble getting back and closing above that level. You shouldn't count this as a big deal because that was a one-day close above. You want to have more consistency above a level in order to have that reaffirm itself as a support. Therefore, still resistance, and we can see here that yesterday we wicked up and got rejected pretty hard. So 30,700 to me is a pretty firm, definitive resistance level. Okay, so just keep in mind the price comes up here today. It would make more sense for the price to come up and reject off that and come back down to retest this 29.5 range. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, it's 29.5. Why is that a big deal? Well, there's a previous resistance level here that also had very significant difficulties crossing before. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days out of 10 where it couldn't cross that level. So 29.5 is, in my opinion, a very strong support level at this point. We can see the one wick down and almost a second wick yesterday, or I guess that was today. essentially holding in place, right? So the price does come back down. We'll see some support at 29.5. Alternate to that, 28,900. And then, of course, extreme worst case scenario, 28,100. And keep in mind that will likely hold here because that was kind of the average true range for Bitcoin if you pull up some volume profiles, right? So again, a lot of reasons why we are in pretty good shape, even if the price were to pull back. So if I'm calling a pullback, don't read into it too much and saying that, the sky is falling. Yes, that can be the case, and it might feel like that because everything's going to be bright red, a sea of red on the charts, if you will. But again, not the end of the world, right? We have a lot of support. 25, 26, 27, 28, like all these ranges are pretty safe, if you will. But to me, 28 seems like the absolute lowest and worst case scenario in the near future. All right, so take a quick look here at the RSI. We can see RSI is coming back down to 50. Standard stuff here, nothing to worry about. Again, we have more room for downside, so keep that in mind before we hit that support. So we're kind of floating in that middle ground. We can see stochastic is kind of telling us there's a potential bounce on the horizon, but I never trust the first. It's always the second that I like. Moving forward here, we can see the MACD as well diverging. This is kind of just an obvious sign that we're starting to lose that momentum to the upside. Big surprise, we've been range bound for 10 to 15 days. Okay. Now, in its past, Bitcoin, when it goes range bound like this for this long, it's inevitable for the price to break out in one direction or the other. Take a look at Bollinger Bands. This is what I was talking about earlier. It hasn't compressed yet, so we don't really have any firm indication that the price is going to go up or down here at this point. It hasn't squeezed yet. So if we just say, for example, another week, we're still in this range and Bollinger Band's getting tighter, that's when we need to worry. I do feel like we're still due for a breakout just because 2 weeks is kind of a long time, but generally speaking, we're still not exactly there yet. If we take a look at the moving averages here, this is something that I wanted to kind of note. We got this ascending type of trend from the 20-day SMA. And yes, I use the SMA, not the EMAs. That's just my preference. On larger time frames, it makes more sense to use simple moving averages that are based on a 14-day period or a specific time frame, depending on what you have there, instead of course, it moving faster. Faster moving averages make a lot more sense on smaller time frames. That's just where I'm at. And again, I teach that in my Trading Academy. If you haven't already watched those and you're a community member, check that out. That's awesome, awesome knowledge. All stuff that I've worked on in the past to help you become better. That said, though, we're kind of right at this level here where we're breaking below the 50, or the 20 rather. Okay, so if we're breaking below the 20, right, and just say we close today or tomorrow somewhere in the low 30,000 range, then we can kind of expect that to be a resistance level and for the price to continue to reject off it and come down. Okay, so that's kind of why I'm anticipating this level holding here. Really just depends on how we close today or throughout the weekend. I'm more so concerned with what happens early next week, more so than what happens today. But again, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to consider shorting at 30,700, just depending on how we get there, right? If we're overextended, that would absolutely be an option. Yeah, let's talk about that. There's no overextension just yet. Everything's kind of calm, if you will. There was an overextension to the downside, but we've since recovered, so nothing to worry about there. So the 4 hour doesn't really tell us, honestly, too much in regard to overextensions. We got convergence on the horizon, but as per usual, we got the MACD-FU in the recent past. And then, of course, we can kind of see with the RSIs, we're still under 50 on the RSI. Until we break back above, that's going to be a point of contention. So to me, if we're still below 50 on the RSI and below 30,600 today, that might be a consideration to go short for the weekend. Again, consideration, not necessarily a likelihood. Let's talk about likelihoods, though. This is something that's interesting. We're at a 7 on TD sequential here. So we're kind of having this little bit of a run up. We can see stochastic is telling us we want to probably pull back here soon. We've got our very first divergence. I'm looking for a second, honestly. I know that may sound confusing to you, but you never just jump right in when you see the first time it swings downwards. It's usually the second or third time where it's more valuable. Okay, so the first time's kind of a false positive in my opinion. So I don't think we're there yet, but another couple hours, by the end of today's trading day, we'll know pretty well if that's where we're at there. And again, you probably get tired of me saying wait for the candlestick to close, but I tell you what, patience is everything in this game. You can only really truly survive as a trader if you are very patient and you wait for good opportunities. Jumping in, jumping out, it might serve you well for a little while, but you'll eventually get hammered home. So just some friendly advice, wait for confirmation. I think we're getting close to the rejection level here. Keep in mind too, we are establishing higher lows on the smaller time frames and so far higher highs. This high right here, for example, is level and parallel with the previous high once we recovered from that first initial dip. So to me, until we break back above this and just say we create another higher low and come back down to bounce, that's the case point where we don't want to get in until we figure that out. Okay? Let's take a quick look at the Ichimoku cloud and kind of see we have all green lights here correction, disregard that completely, I misspoke. We have all red lights to not take a trade. And what I mean by that is lagging spans intersect with the price action tells us we have lost that momentum. Conversion lines below the baseline, implying that a long position is not ideal at this point. And then furthermore, of course, the obvious indicator letting us know that we have the cloud here working itself out. And you can see, look at the upper lead here, right there, perfect, smack dab right there at that level of 30,700. Okay, so to me, again, I'm looking for a short at 30,500 / 30,600, preferably when the one-day candlestick closes today below those levels and the RSI on the 4-hour is under 50. Those are little complementing factors I'm looking for to make this happen. Again, is it a perfect exact science? No, absolutely not. It could absolutely continue higher. I mean, look at this garbage here. That was completely nonsense. 5% correction in 5 hours with no reason to have jumped up to that level is just a liquidation hunt. You see those happen all the time. So be very careful with your stop losses. In fact, make sure you watch my, I think, chapter 7 of my risk management trading university videos. It's really important to kind of just make sure to work within your risk tolerance. If you're not comfortable with losing 5 to 10% or whatever that number might be for you, then you probably shouldn't be doing it, right? Again, different levels for different people. I hope this makes sense, and oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. 16 minutes here. This is a very long video today. I hope that you stuck through to the end. Kudos to you if you did. Comment below if you made it all the way through. I'm always curious to hear about that. And thanks again to everyone else who has jumped in there. Help us grow our Twitter, of course. I'd love to get to know you better there as well. And obviously, again, make sure you jump over this new exclusive offer from BingX. Really, really good opportunity. Only available until July 31st. Hope you have a great rest of the day. We'll see you in the next one. Take good care. Goodbye.